What's that phrase? Eat. What's that phrase? You got to eat your own words. Um. What's that phrase? There's egg on my face, and I've got to eat my own words. I've got to eat some humble pie because let's speak about Spain. Let's speak about the Socceroos versus France. France four. France four. Australia one. Ah, this sucks. I'm shattered. Absolutely shattered. Once again, still pretty raw. It's 9:30 by the time at the time of recording, so the game finished probably about 70 minutes ago. Fuck, fuck. Yeah. I just don't know, man. I just don't know because I had the confidence, I had the faith, I had the belief, and when Craig Goodwin scores the goal, I don't think I felt a feeling like it. It was shock. It came too early. It came too early. It was a shock to me. It was just an utter shock. There was this just rush of pride and emotion and excitement and tiredness and adrenaline all at once. It felt like I'd done. It felt like I just fucking injected ice, right? Or I don't know, probably not, right? But like it just felt like I had just injected something. Like something came over me. I guess that's football, right? I just felt like I had. That's gonna be taken out of context. It felt like something had just like something viscerally just went through my body, like an electric shock. And 18 minutes of bliss, 18 minutes of utter bliss before France came to play. Now, I don't want to say, I don't want to say that, I don't want to say that Australia lost it for themselves because I don't think that's giving France enough credit because obviously France are a good team. And obviously Mbappe is very good, and very quick, and very fast. And obviously Dembele is very good, very quick, very fast. But when you concede off a second phase of a corner, when you concede off profligance and just petulance in possession, and all of a sudden you find yourself 2-1 down within 5 minutes, it's just a massive dagger in the heart. A massive dagger in the heart. Because we started that game so well. First 15 minutes, we did exactly what we needed to do. I'm not going to say I should be coach of Australia, but they did exactly what I said that Australia should do in the preview in the scouting report I did for the game, in the scouting report I did over France. Australia needed to be very patient in possession, wait, because France, especially in the second phase of build-up play, aren't high pressers. They are in the initial stages when you build up from the back, like when you're in your own box, they are high pressers. But if you're able to break through that and get the ball up to your striker and then you can recycle possession from there, they don't press that high and they don't press that aggressively. So Australia needed to, and they did do this in the first 15 minutes. They played very patient football. They just passed the ball, more very integral, just pass, be very patient, be very non-aggressive, be non-confrontational with their possession, just wait for gaps, wait for the pass to be there instead of trying to force it. And that's exactly how the goal came. We saw Matt Leckie in acres of space over that right-hand side. That ball, I think it might have been from Kyle Rouse, of course, playing on the left-hand side. I think Suter played on the right. That ball from Kyle Rouse, or it might have been Aaron Moy, I can't remember, was delightful. Leckie, fantastic close control, takes it in his stride, gets the ball to the back post where Goodwin's there. Obviously, that switching of play is going to be there because of France's narrow fullbacks. Especially out of possession, those narrow fullbacks. We obviously saw. Look at Benjamin Pavard's positioning when Goodwin takes a shot. He's practically in line with the centre back in terms of vertically, right? So those switches of play where you get the ball on the left, switch it out to the right, and then switch it back over to the left, stretch that defense and create gaps. That's of course how the goal came. Slightly fortunate. I think Leckie had gotten past Lucas Hernandez by the time he went down, and there was a slight deflection on the cross, but it's football, right? It happens. And great start, Australia. Good finish as well. The ball's bobbling, not a easy strike at all. And then the wheels came off. It's just disappointing when you concede from just petulance, Second phase of a corner, you're not picking up Andre Rabiot in the box. Getting caught in possession in the final in your defensive third against France, you don't really want to do that because that's exactly what. Once again, I'm blowing smoke up my own ass, but that's exactly what I flagged before this game was if you turn the ball over cheaply in your defensive third, France are potentially one of the best football sides in the world at counter pressing, getting the ball and then going and then capitalizing on mistakes. Because they've got so much pace, they've got so much flair. They can do. I mean, when you look at the goal, there's this little flick from Mbappe to get the ball to Rabiot. That's just this instinctive flair that not a lot of other teams have, and they've been given the freedom to do that by Deschamps. So credit to them for that. But I mean, yeah, once again, like it was shattering. We go into halftime 2-1. Probably could have gone into halftime 3-1 if Mbappe scores. And we start it scores that chance, which he probably should have. And we start the second half okay. We started not bad. I feel like there was something there for us. There was something a little bit different for us. But once again, it's just fucked. Like, it's just... I can't remember how the second goal came. Or how the third goal came, to be honest. It was Mbappe. Oh, yeah. So the ball... Right, okay, yeah. So once again, this is what I was going to say. Our first two goals came from individual mistakes. Nothing tactically about it. Nothing tactical. Maybe a high press, but let's be honest. You can instruct under 14s to fucking do a high press, right? The two goals in the second half were probably more disappointing because maybe not disappointing, but more sinking because it was very basic, but. Basic football works when you're just so much better player for player than the opposition. It was ball down the line to Mbappe, cross into the box, goal. Cross into the box, goal. Cross into the box, goal. Like that, like ball out wide into space, ball out wide into space, ball out wide into space. And that's exactly what that's what we couldn't have allowed them to do, if that makes any sense. That was the one thing, is restricting space out wide in between the lines and in behind. Bring up the average positions. Look at Mbappe and Dembele. You cannot allow them to be given that much or occupy those type of positions. You cannot. It is absolutely, it's criminal. It is absolutely criminal how you're allowing them to get in so much space in such dangerous areas. That is the one thing Australia couldn't afford to do. And we allowed them to do it. I think tactically, I tweeted this actually. Let me read my tweet relatively word for word so I don't misquote myself or I go back to what I was saying. It's one of those very tricky things. I think in possession, we did a lot right in terms of mitigating the potential damage that could have occurred. And obviously what I mean by that is, like I said, if Australia tried to play Hollywood pass, try to be high tempo, aggressive, you leave yourself overexposed, counter-attack with the goal. Right? Their goal, we left ourselves overexposed because we tried to fuck around with it in our defensive third. They get the quick turnover with a counter press. Bang, goal. So I think for the most part, in possession, this timidness and this patient approach was the correct approach. Especially in the second phase of build-up play, hence the goal, right? Out of possession, the areas in which we forced the opposition were good. Bear with me. They were okay because we didn't really see Mbappe one-on-one with the keeper. We didn't see Giroud peeling off the last shoulder or dropping deep. We didn't see Mbappe making those inverted runs from the left-hand side into the box. And we didn't see Griezmann really into the game at all. We saw him picking up the ball relatively deep, relatively wide, which is the areas you want, right? And the areas in which Mbappe picked up the ball the most were good in terms of the areas. What we did once we forced them to those areas, completely wrong. Because we allowed them so much space. we should have been a lot more tighter defensively. A lot tighter. When we didn't have the ball. When we didn't have the ball, it was a mid-block, which I understand. Would have liked to say a low block, but it is what it is. 4-1-4-1/5-4-1 depends on how aggressive Aaron Moy was. Irvine shuttling across with McGree, fullbacks or wingers dropping deep alongside that double pivot. Duke and Cummings up front, who did a collective press of about 3 meters. We had a pretty good pressing trap. I think we had a pretty good pressing trap when the ball got recycled out wide and back to one of the French centre backs. Jackson Irvine would attack it very aggressively, which I think was pretty good. In terms of that pressing trap out of possession was good, and it worked a couple of times. But when you look at it, in stages, in possession, offensively, like, this is going to sound weird, but bear with me for a second. Offensively, in possession, below par. Very, very, very bland, basic, flaccid, just boring, really boring. Offensively, out of possession, like offensively, but thinking defensively, good, fine, really good, in fact. Like it. Like what we did in terms of we played this patient way of playing football because we knew, and it's blatantly obvious if you watch France, they want teams to play high-tempo football because they can get that quick turnover, and because Dembele, Giroud, and Mbappe aren't restricted in terms of their defensive responsibilities, they get that quick turnover and then they go because the other teams overexpose themselves trying to play high-tempo aggressive football. They get that turnover and they go quickly vertically to those players who can tear defenses to shreds. So when you take a look at that in terms of our possession, I thought it was pretty good because we were patient, we were calm, we were composed. We have those players who can play the ball around. Suter and Rouse are pretty good in possession. Moyes okay in possession. I think Age is getting to Aaron Moy a little bit, which was pretty clear to see in this game, which was frustrating. But I mean, it is what it is. So you have that, right? Out of possession, I think we didn't set ourselves up to counter at all because we were sitting very flat. We were sitting very square on. We weren't like interchanging lines. It's out of possession. We weren't trying to force teams to kind of pass down one area of the pitch where we can expose them on the counter attack quickly. When we got the ball back from our counter press, we kind of recycled possession, which didn't really allow us to exploit any potential weaknesses from the French team, which was a little bit frustrating. Our positional sense, I thought was okay. Our positional sense I thought was pretty. Actually, wait, no, not our positional sense. I think our positional sense was pretty good because we were compact in central areas, forcing France out wide, which is good because obviously the more you're out wide, the less further you are to the goal, right? So that's good. However, I bring this up again. We were far too. How do you describe this? We were far too complacent. I don't want to say it's complacency because it can't be complacency, right? But we were far too relaxed in our press in their final third. In our defensive third and in our middle third, we were far too relaxed with our press, far too relaxed. And I know what you mean. I know what some people are probably thinking if they listen to this is, okay, but what I mean by this, if I can get my words out, is you don't want to press too intensely too early with France, because if you occupy advanced areas of the pitch, be very aggressive, then they've got that space in behind, right? But it's being compact, deep, solid, not allowing space, but not allowing space through pressing, through intense pressing, man-marking pressing, that if I'm pressing, if I'm Nathaniel Atkinson and I'm pressing Kylian Mbappe, and I'm pressing really high, and I'm pressing really aggressively, but because he's Mbappe, he just skins me, right? Because it's Mbappe, right? You need to have the knowledge and the system behind you to be like, okay, he skinned me, but he has to get through Jackson Irvine. And if he gets through Jackson Irvine, he has to get through Harry Suter. And if he gets through Harry Suter, he has to get through Aaron Moy. If he gets through Aaron Moy, he has to get through these other players, right? Because you're sitting so compact that you flood players in the box, which means if you get +1, another player's right there. What we did was it was a kind of a man-on-man style approach. We didn't try and suffocate Mbappe. We didn't try and suffocate Dembele, and this allowed them to get into these spaces, which was our demise. Incredibly frustrating. Because I backed us. I really did. Like, in my heart of hearts, I really thought we were able to win. We had a chance of winning this game. I really did. And it was just 9 minutes in, I thought, fuck, we win this, right? Or like 9 minutes in, I was like, all right, we hold on to half time. Anything can happen. Just frustrating. Just one of those things. And despite how, like I'm the most open person in terms of criticizing Graham Arnold. I think if you look back at my channel, if you look back at some of the podcasts, you'll see if there is a chance to criticize Graham Arnold, more often than not, I'm going to take it, right? But when you look at this game, I just think it was a little bit unlucky, in my opinion, in terms of maybe not unlucky because I don't really think luck's a thing because you make your own luck. But put it this way, if you take everything about that game, but replace France with not even Tunisia, replace France with Ghana, or replace France with Poland, it's a very different game because they relied on that pace from Mbappe, on that pace from Dembele, on the hold-up play of Giroud, which other teams don't have. So it wasn't tactically they broke us down. It was they just backed their players to beat our players in the individual battle, which when it's Mbappe versus Atkinson, when it's Dembele versus Bajic, I think I know who I'd back there 9 times out of 10. I think it's very harsh to have a fucking linchpin on Atkinson. I think if you played Karacic there, would have been the same result. I think if you played Deganek there, would have been the same result. With that saying, however, I don't think Atkinson should have started for this exact reason, that he isn't exactly the best player defensively. Physically, he's slightly less. He's a slightly worse physically than potentially Deganek or Karacic. Thinking about it now, I probably would have started Deganek there because he's quick and he's physical. So if he gets shoulder to shoulder with Mbappe, he can just say ya bye, prick, and just physically intimidate him that way. Atkinson doesn't have the physicality to do that, which is like, fuck. Overall, how do I say this? It's hard to say this without people thinking that I'm just using blind optimism and that I'm like just being quite one-eyed. But I think if you look at the game objectively, it could have gone a lot worse. And I think tactically, the Socceroos were slightly above par, but the individual talents of France were just far too strong. And that's what won them the game. Trust me, like I said, if there is any chance to criticise Graham Arnold, I'll criticise him. Do I think he got it spot on today? Absolutely not. Do I think that he could have changed a lot of things a lot sooner? 100%. He could have made subs when it was 2-1 instead of 4-1. He could have not started Mitchell Duke. He could have not started Nathaniel Atkinson. But overall, I think it's very harsh to solely blame Arnie, and it's very harsh to solely blame any of those players in that squad. Because at the end of the day, it just came down to Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, Olivier Giroud, Antoine Griezmann being better than our players, which I don't think there's a human on earth that would dispute that. I think that's a good summary. 44 minutes. I think that's a good summary. I think I'm done.